Hello and welcome to the video notes on Prohibition. As we go through this, what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of images and cartoons. I'll leave those up for a moment, but we're not going to actively look at them for the most part. So if you want to stop and take a look at the cartoons and other pictures, feel free to pause the video as we go through. So, what was Prohibition? Prohibition was when the manufacture and sale of alcohol was outlawed in the United States. So, the first question that many people have is why? Why did America go dry? To go dry is to get rid of alcohol. Well, there are a number of reasons, but the main one is that many citizens felt that alcohol led to violence and crime, especially against women and children. These people felt that the United States would be better off without alcohol, and they were able to pass the 18th Amendment to the Constitution, which ends up outlawing the manufacture and sale of alcohol. Now, notice it's just the manufacture and sale. It's not the drinking of alcohol. So people who want to drink are going to try and find ways to drink, which means that for anybody who can illegally manufacture and sell alcohol, well, they'll have a lot of money to make. And the people who did this were called bootleggers. So a bootlegger was someone who made and smuggled alcohol illegally into the United States. A lot of time the alcohol was made up in Canada, smuggled across the border, and then distributed throughout the United States. So even though their actions were illegal, why do you think bootleggers continue to take the risk, and why were they so successful? As mentioned, people still wanted to drink, so bootleggers made a lot of money by selling this illegal alcohol. And it was worth taking the risk and selling illegal goods because of all the money that was made. So this is going to create a connection between bootlegging and organized crime. Organized crime is going to greatly increase because of this bootlegging. You're going to need a huge organization to manufacture the alcohol in Canada, smuggle it across the border, and find ways to distribute it to customers in the United States. And this is just going to cause these large crime organizations to grow up and develop. So, how did organized crime help add to the chaos and corruption of the 1920s? Well, this is where some of the most famous characters from the 1920s come from. Gangsters such as Al Capone are going to make millions through bootlegging. They're going to have numerous run-ins with federal officers, such as Elliot Ness, who led a group of agents called the Untouchables, who tried to put an end to bootlegging. So while the gangsters are making a lot of money off of bootlegging, they're selling their products at illegal bars called speakeasies. And what type of person is going to go to a speakeasy? Well, here are pictures of speakeasies. Take a look. And you can see that since people still wanted to drink, even though it was illegal, everyday Americans are going to be going to speakeasies. Men, women, rich, poor, anyone who wants a drink is going to be going. So, was the justice system in America successful in stopping illegal activities in the 1920s? No. For the most part, federal agents were unable to enforce the law. Every time a speakeasy was shut down, a new one opened nearby. And one of the reasons why was because there wasn't much cooperation between the federal agents and the state and local agents. So it was largely the national government taking on the gangsters on their own. There are even some stories of bootleggers who were able to set up shop right next to a police station and set up their distillery so that the smoke from it went out of the chimney in the police station. So there isn't much being done, and the gangsters definitely have the upper hand. So on a related note, while Prohibition is changing the country and we're having this struggle between those people who don't want alcohol and do want alcohol, we're going to see another change come about, and that's the change with women. During the 1920s, women's roles are changing from being largely at home to women having more choices. Now, women are choosing, do I want a career? Do I not want a career? Do I want to be married? Not married? Do I want to have a family or not have a family? And these choices, these new options, came about largely because of the passage of the 19th Amendment. The 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. If you remember back in the Gilded Age, women such as Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony had worked hard to get women's suffrage, the right to vote for women, passed so that all women would have the same political rights to vote as men. Now, the 19th Amendment, when it was passed, didn't give women suddenly the ability to have new roles, to make new choices. But many women felt that now that they had passed this amendment, that they then should have these new options and new choices. Okay, taking a step back to Prohibition. At the time, throughout the 1920s, as more and more crime came about, more and more people started to become opposed to prohibition. And you can see that there were plenty of pictures and advertisements. And if you look at this middle section on this graph, the mouse is going around, it shows a continual rise in crime rates during the Prohibition era. But then we're going to see that suddenly they drop right after the Prohibition era. And that's going to be an argument that many of the opponents of Prohibition are going to use. They're going to say, if we get rid of Prohibition, it's going to make alcohol legal, and then the bootleggers won't have the money to finance their operations, and hopefully that'll get rid of a lot of crime. And in the end, that was one of the major arguments for getting rid of Prohibition. And that's going to happen through what's called the 21st Amendment. And we're going to see that this experiment of prohibition was unsuccessful as people continued to drink and problems were created with bootleggers and organized crime. So the 21st Amendment is going to overturn prohibition. Thanks for listening.